Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the 12th episode of Cinemafia. I am your main boy host, Lewis. I'm passing it over to...
Me, I guess. Hello, I am Asher. I am not a host. What about you?
Neither a boy.
I'm Andrew, and I must protest against you saying main host once more.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there.
Hi everyone, my name is Other Asher.
Hi,
I
Other
am
Asher.
your guest boy this episode. I was on last episode and I just liked it so much I had to come back for more. So today we're talking about love exposure.
That's right. I think you just usurped
Yeah,
Lewis's role.
And I liked it. And I liked it.
Guys,
Well, bring
today
me on
we're
as the
looking
main
at,
host.
Today we're looking at a very big film, very long, large film
Oh,
called
boy.
Love Exposure. Asher, give us the details.
That's right. Love Exposure, a 2008-2009, released in January 2009, drama action.
Released in 2008 in Japan.
Oh dear, maybe we should kick him off.
Yeah, you're ruining this.
A 2009 drama action comedy Japanese film running at 3 hours and 57 minutes.
Action comedy drama. Let's add that to it.
That's what it is. Directed by Sion Sono, a story by Sion Sono, and the screenplay written by Sion Sono. That's what happens when one person does everything. It's a really long film.
It's a cool name, isn't it? Sion Sono.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
actually, talking about the length of the film, I mentioned this before, but the film's screenplay was originally 8 hours long, and
8 hours.
the original cut was 6 hours, but then someone else came in, one of Sono's
The
friends.
producers, or
Well, I think Sono did he did the first cut of 6 hours, and then they brought it down to 4 hours, so...
And we only had to sit through 4 hours of this
absolutely,
film.
yeah. And it goes like this: the story of a teenage boy called Yu, who falls for Yoko, a girl he runs into while working as an upskirt photographer in an offshoot.
Asher did finger
Well,
tails.
yeah.
The little bunnies.
An
Yeah.
offshoot up. Oh dear,
Oh,
photographer.
sorry, I threw you off.
You did. In an offshoot of the porn industry. His attempts to woo her are complicated by a spot of cross-dressing, which convinces Yoko that she is lesbian. Dalliances with kung fu
We're
and
not making this
crime,
up.
and a constant struggle with the guilt that's a legacy of his Catholic upbringing. If that sounds like a mess, that's because there was a lot going on in that 4-hour film to try condense into a wee thing, and I think they did a commendable effort.
Yes, there was a lot of content to discuss there.
And now he's already talking. I'm going to pass it over to Andrew once again. He's going to tell us what the Mafia game is and
Yes.
how it relates to the Cinemafia concept.
Yeah,
Go.
absolutely. This is Cinemafia. We're all discussing a film that we've just seen together in the same room at the same time, and now we're going to talk about it on this podcast.
In the same room at the same time, together.
Wow.
But one of us, let's kick him off.
Yeah, this is annoying.
I'm pretty keen on that.
But one of us is lying about our true opinions. So when you hear us present ratings out of 10, know that one of us will be off by a difference of at least 2 points. And it's up to the villagers, the people who aren't lying, to try and figure out, using logic and emotion and rhetoric, to find out who that person is.
Fantastic.
And if people would like to follow along while knowing who the Mafia is, where can they go to, Andrew?
They can go to tinyurl.com/Cinemafia spoilers. That's tinyurl.com/Cinemafia spoilers. And I'd just like to say, you won't find my name on there because I'm not the Mafia.
You won't find my name listed there either. Also, just because I'm the one who owns the document, so if I was I wanted to be secret, I wouldn't have to write my own name.
Okay,
otherwise.
Stalin. Jeez.
No, Stalin kept himself in the photos. He removed the other people. you
Oh,
idiot.
yeah.
you're
The
stupid.
minutes. He adjusted the minutes.
All right, Lewis, one of these who's Mafia because they haven't said they were.
Exactly.
I'm not the
exactly.
Mafia, so we all know who the Mafia is.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Once
It's
again-
over to me. Maybe we should reveal our rating.
Let's reveal our ratings
Let's
so
go.
that we can more
I-
accurately say.
give this a 7 out of 10.
I have also given
So
this
safe.
a 7 out of 10.
I have given this film a 6.5 out of 10.
Ooh,
I gave it an 8 out of 10, so I'm probably
Very
highest.
interesting.
that is quite
Mafia.
peculiar. Okay, who would
We're
like
all
to
in the same
go?
grouping, yeah.
I would like Andrew to go first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before, we had an idea earlier to potentially, a lot of the reasoning we've used in the past for Mafia defense is to let other people do all the talking so you can jump on. What we've started doing now is we're going to randomly decide using paper, scissors, rock to determine who will speak first. The winner of the paper, scissors, rock game will choose the speaking order.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I won.
Congratulations to Asher.
Fuck yeah.
And he chose for me to present my opinion first. So let me tell you about why I thought this film was a 6.5 out of 10. First of all, it was a good film. 6.5 out of 10
Yes.
is a pretty decent rating. I liked it. And there were many aspects of the film that I feel like I could talk about, such as the father. I thought he was the best actor. The father was called Tetsu. And in every scene that he was in, he felt like by far the most believable character. To me, because the rest of the characters and the rest of the concepts in the film were so ridiculous. He, to me, was far more human than any other character in this film. It felt like he was not just a joke. He was going through some real human stuff, whereas some of the other characters were... he was learning how to take panty shots with whips and with martial arts techniques and stuff like that. But overall, this film was very long and it had a lot of content in it that makes it quite difficult to discuss. So the whole premise of the film was he is not getting attention from his father and starts to act up. And eventually it gets to the point where he has to do something pretty heinous, which is to take upskirt shots of all these people. And that leads him down a whole other rabbit hole. And the way that this story progressed was actually fine. The progression of the story was natural. The way things happened one after the other was decent. There was a lot of building. There was a lot of setup to each scene, from each scene to the next. And at one point we even saw the same build-up, the exact same build-up that had been happening earlier from one person's perspective, but from two other characters' perspectives. And that was really important because it was totally important for understanding the motivations of the two main women in this film. Those characters being Yoko and Koike. Respectively, the heroine and the villain, or the villainess in this case. And if you hadn't seen the film's perspectives leading up to that point from Koike's perspective, you could not have understood her motivations whatsoever, because at times her reasons for behaving in the way that she did were alien and incomprehensible. It was very difficult at points trying to understand exactly why she did what she did. We saw that she was beaten in the past, and this gave her a reason to mutilate her sleeping father who attacked her.
I think there were hints of sexual abuse as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we saw that she definitely had reason to be unhinged, and that was very important because she acted unhinged. So what held this film back for me in not giving it a higher mark, because before I was thinking about giving this film an 8 out of 10. I was thinking between 6 out of 10 and 8 out of 10. But
when was this that you were considering giving it an 8 out of 10?
Just before, when we were sitting down. I was thinking between 6 or 8 is how I would rate this film. But I then immediately thought to myself, if you think it's between a 6 or 8, it's really one of the lower scores, which is why I gave it a 6.5.
Okay.
And what held it back was primarily the length. The story was there. There was actually a cohesive story. And even though it was ridiculous, and even though there were parts of it that didn't quite flow, it was it was story points, A to B, B to C, C to D. So it flowed in that sense. But there were some parts that were too over my head. Perhaps that was due to the language barrier, but there were parts that I didn't quite get. The primary instigator would be the invisible bullet scene, where Yoko this is when we're first introduced to her perspective, and she's walking through the city and saying lines along the lines of, people die all the time. People are so close to dying, and I'm the only one who can see these invisible bullets. And I didn't quite... I'm sure I could make some guesses, but that to me, it was a little confusing and hard to understand. For a moment, I was thinking she had a literal sort of power, and I thought another crazy twist was going to happen, because the first crazy twist for me in this film was finding out that he had to do upskirt shots for in order to impress his father, to get his father to pay attention to him. But another problem was that perhaps the biggest issue that I thought with the writing was this film was that Koike, the villainess, in my opinion, didn't have enough of a reason to be interested in you. throughout the film, she's saying that she's following you, and she's listening to all his phone calls. She finds out all about his life because she wants to get him into her church-like cult. But I didn't quite see the end game other than her just being interested.
I didn't really think that it was a matter of her trying to get him into the cult. It was more that she kind of fell in love with him because she saw in him the original sin, which kind of like links to her past and her backstory that we saw before. And and I guess you're right. Like, you know, she fell in love with him, and there's not really, you don't have to give a proper reason for that. So it is kind of weak, but
she had very self-destructive tendencies. She eventually ended up killing herself, but I didn't see why. I knew she was dangerous and I knew she was unhinged. But at that point in the scene where Yu has come to save Yoko, as it were, she kills herself, potentially because she realizes that she could never truly have Yu. But I thought she was too grounded and too powerful of a character to get down over that one aspect. The last two things that I wanted to talk about, one thing that I thought was a huge, big problem with this film was the camera work. The camera work was very shoddy. There were scenes where it was going around too quickly, awkward close-ups. Many of the shots were supposed to be like panty shots, and right, so that's kind of, you know, to be expected in those parts. But particularly during the fight scenes, it was quite jarring. And even though the action was okay, it was kind of strange the way that they chose to do some of these things. I would have preferred if they used trolleys, right? Because I could tell it was all hand. It was definitely all hand camera stuff, which isn't necessarily a problem, but it was a problem for me. And it happened too much. And in a 4-hour film, it definitely added up over time. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the music. The music was good. I liked
whose music you like.
I liked the music. It was a classical score. However, they overused the same few songs over and over and over again. There was Bolero that played pretty much through the first third of the film. After, of course, the opening song, which was kind of like a church. What's the hymn? The chanting, that sort of thing. And then there was
Beethoven Symphony Number 7.
Beethoven Symphony
Wow,
Number
just
7.
knew that off the top of your head.
Yeah, sure,
Interesting.
That one.
That was so prolific.
It kept on going. And there were parts where they let the song actually get to its climax during the really intense parts. So there was some like cohesiveness.
Some
There
cohesion.
was some cohesion.
Here we go.
In the areas where the action was heating up, and they decided to let the song go because the song does get more dramatic. But we were all like humming this song after we listened to the film,
hypnotic.
because and it was good. Yeah, it was kind of trance-like actually, how the song kept going. And so I liked the music, but maybe they could have mixed it up a little bit more as well.
Okay.
That's it from me for now.
Thank you for that diatribe, Andrew. Who's going next?
Let's chuck it over to other Asher.
Oh, yeah. Cool. So I suppose I agree with some of your points. I have to say I do disagree about the cinematography. I really liked the handheld style, and I felt that it really clicked with the energy of the film because it was really frantic, going from one scene to the other, and it kind of gave it a real amateur style that I guess this doesn't really affect my review of the film, but the director, Sono, he uses this style throughout the rest of his films. I've only seen Why Don't You Play in Hell, which came out in 2013, and that's very similar. It has a high production value, but he still uses the same kind of handheld style to give the same kind of like, you know, amateur kind of style energy to the scenes. Yeah, I really like this film. On a similar note...
Do you remind us what you rated it again?
So I gave it an 8 out of 10. On a similar note to Andrew, I wasn't sure what I should rate this. I was kind of toying between a 7 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. And I feel like I could even go outside of those boundaries after a rewatch. Like, I feel like because this is considered a cult film, and because it's really characteristic of cult films that you either really like it or you really hate it.
A literal cult film, by the way.
Yeah, and because this was such a long film.
There was a cult in the film.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, and because this was such a long film, I felt like I was really undecided, and I was even planning on taking notes afterwards, but I really struggled to come to terms with my thoughts about it because there were so many themes. And to an extent,
It's
I mean,
convenient
that's
to not know what to talk about.
yeah, sure, but I mean, this is also my response.
Settle down.
So it's legitimate.
Early days.
Yeah, there were so many themes in the film, and I really, I suppose part of the reason why I really enjoyed the fact that we sat down and watched that, and I'm really glad we did, was
Really?
because it was really ambitious. Yeah, of course.
Really? Really?
Really, yeah. Well, it was so ambitious of the director to try and tackle all of these things. Like I mean, there were the three main ones that were mentioned in the Bible passage. That was faith, hope, and love. And then obviously love played the biggest role out of those. Probably faith afterwards, and then I'm not sure how much hope there was. Yeah, but anyway.
What did that even mean?
No, but then kind of come. Yeah, I'm not sure what that even meant. So
But
there
it
we
was
are.
there.
That is
It meant
a
something.
detriment to the film.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, that is a detriment to the film that I wasn't immediately. It wasn't immediately clear what hope kind of represented in the context of it. I felt that faith was quite cool because I mean, obviously we saw at the start with the Catholicism versus this new kind of zero church, and then there was also there were kind of like faith or like religious undertones to the pervert at the start who was teaching the protagonist
holy ways.
Yeah, the holy ways of how to take upskirt
That scene was so
photography.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, just on a more general note, I felt that the film it started really strong. Like the first hour and a half, I was like, I definitely would be very confident giving it an 8 out of 10 if it wrapped up with everything else in the film. Like I felt
But you did give it an 8 out of 10.
yeah, or maybe even higher. But
Okay.
my rating at the moment is unsure. It could go lower if I rewatch the film in the future. That's my point. But I feel confident that the first bit of the film was really good. The middle section, I think that was like a chapter that it was going over. It was slow, and it really did change a lot of the pacing and the music and everything. It was kind of a bit more. I suppose it was always melodramatic, but it was a bit less formalist, a bit more realist.
The film totally started as a comedy film, like a pure comedy film.
Yeah.
Even with the intense parts of his father,
I disagree.
even slapping him, that was still funny.
No, but yeah, it was funny. There was
And
comedy
then- and
undertones,
then
but it wasn't a
chapters-
pure comedy.
and
There were
then-
other elements.
And then chapters 2 and 3, it totally turned on its head.
I disagree that it was a pure comedy because that implies that it wasn't also directed totally towards other things, which I feel like it was an equal proportion at the start to comedy. But it mainly shifted over to kind of the melodrama of the character interactions and the love triangle and everything like that. On a similar note to you as well, I did like the music, and I did think that one do 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 was overplayed. I really liked the start, and actually this is one of the few things that I wrote before I abandoned writing notes, which is I liked that the backstories you had kind of classical / chanting to kind of reflect, I guess his more religious kind of. I mean the classical was there
Because
just 'cause it sounds
he was
cool.
initially a
Yeah.
pure good boy.
He was initially a pure good boy, exactly. Keiko had this energetic kind of like do 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 that didn't change that much, but it kind of reflected the fact that she was always on edge and her character was really quite volatile. And then Yoko had this. I really like this, and they didn't return to this for the rest of the film, but she had this cool Japanese style rock that reminded me a wee bit of in other forms of Japanese media that I've seen. This kind of soft rock. Anyway, it really fit
What
in well
other
with
forms
also.
of Japanese media
City
might
pop.
these be?
It's at Silent Hill. I didn't want to bring it up again, but okay, it happens at the end of Silent Hill, and I really like how it does that.
I'm glad you didn't say anime.
No, I'm not a weeb. Don't get me mistaken. But,
Hell yeah.
but yeah, I guess other things that I liked as well, the flashbacks with the initial confessions, how they were kind of like low, kind of grainy quality. I thought that was cool, and we only really saw that at the start. Again, lending to my liking the start more than the middle section. But I did also think that the film ended really well. Like, even if we had the kind of repeated, music tones throughout the film, I really liked how it ended and how it really built up as he was running down the street and all these people were chasing after him, and then he manages to reunite with Yoko, his Maria.
And it ends on like them grabbing hands, close up of the
Quite
hands.
suddenly.
Yeah, exactly.
Takes you by
So
surprise.
Quite sudden for a 4-hour film.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
so I mean, that's really all I can say about the film at the moment. It's difficult to go into detail, obviously, because it was so long and there was so much there, but I can just say that I really thought that it was ambitious, and I thought a lot of the elements and a lot of the themes that the director was going for really played off, but a lot of them I'm really unsure whether they did. And I know people personally who would defend this film to a T as a 100 out of 100 film, 10 out of 10. So I have to kind of suspend...
I know people, all right?
Yeah, I know people, I'm just saying. But I have to suspend, like, also just the fact that it is so long, and I haven't really come to a complete decision about it. With that said, we can pass it on to normal
Myself,
Asher.
yes,
Yeah.
I would love to go. Thank you, other Asher, for pretending to choose the order. No, I predetermined this right at the beginning.
Well, go ahead. Come
Before
on.
we were even born.
Absolutely.
He was plotting.
I really liked the extremely melodramatic exposition. The first hour, it really took us, by surprise. The rest of the film, that the tone shifted, but that first hour was ridiculous, and still that sort of uncomfortableness that permeated throughout the whole film. Discomfort. Goodness me, it was extremely uncomfortable and kind of obscene. How because the characters were complicated, it was difficult to pick out this person is good, this person is bad. Sorry, the bad ones, like Koike, you could always say these are bad people. But he did bad things. He invaded people's privacy by taking upskirt photographs, which his father described not as a sin but as a heinous crime. This is different to the stuff you've done before.
It was less to do with crime and more to do with Japanese society at that point.
Sure. But it was I was just watching this film thinking, how can they redeem this character?
I'm not entirely sure if it is Japanese society.
Did I say crime?
Though,
I meant to say religion. At that point, it was less to do with religion and more to do with the society.
But Japanese society, I think it has like 1% to 2% Christians, or even less than that potentially.
Yeah,
so I
it's quite a
think
small number.
it is interesting that they chose Christianity as a backdrop to it. But yeah,
I think it was just like during this film I was worried about the integrity of the themes. Like, will these characters get their just desserts? Will we come out at the end thinking, okay, he's been bad throughout and he's actually redeemed himself, and we can understand what he's done? And a few other characters too, like the Three Stooges, his friends, they seem to get away with some ridiculous shit scot-free. Like they kidnapped people. I don't know if they killed anyone. And
there was a scene where he and his friend were fighting on a bridge, and a bunch of women were like, "Oh no, looks like we all have to go past them on the bridge." and then like a line of about 9 women perfectly line up, and a remote control car then drives through all their legs, taking.
I thought
masterful.
that was good though. Yeah,
Genius.
that was
It was
comedic.
I mean, that was funny. Yes,
it was comedic, but it was like, this is so uncomfortable. I'm finding this so funny, but this is such a violation. But it was
Wait a virtual signal, man.
Totally.
Virtual signal.
But like, I really liked this film, how it took these issues and made us feel really uncomfortable, and I felt worried about how it would resolve, especially whether it was perverting the idea of forgiveness.
Haha, nice.
Yeah, right. That was kind of the theme, that it was perverting forgiveness at the beginning, but then forgiveness became really important at the end.
And perverts
Yes.
became an important theme as
Yeah,
well.
and 1 Corinthians 13. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just read a single line.
All right.
Go ahead.
Was a really important part of this when they're on the beach and Yu has wrestled with Yoko.
They have just kidnapped Yoko.
Yeah, which is a massively questionable thing. She's kind of part of a.
No, that's
No,
all right.
she was part of a cult.
She was
And-
indoctrinated at that point,
Yes.
so they felt like they had
They
to
totally
take her away.
just tied her up and whatever.
Yeah.
But that she's yelling at him. She recites 1 Corinthians 13. Have you even read the Bible? Do you know this thing? And it's a really powerful moment. I'll just read this one line. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. And this is all about forgiveness.
I've heard that one before. Read at weddings sometimes.
Interesting.
That line.
Because you could see at the end that Yu and Yoko do have this love. That was a really moving scene when she breaks into the asylum and tries to wrestle him out from his character that he's got over himself, and bringing it back in, I think, a meaningful way, this idea of love and forgiveness, because they're both really flawed, but through that they can be forgiven.
Yeah,
even though they're both probably going to prison because they've killed people or threatened people. And
If I can just jump in quickly, I liked how it was like, he needs to be. Sorry, I just hit the mic. It needs to be Scorpion.
Miss Scorpion, yeah.
Yeah, she needs to be her to get with. Well, to impress Yoko at first, but then it's like she needs to overcome that character to actually get to her at the end. So it's sort of nice development.
Yes,
Goes
yeah.
from using the character to overcoming it.
I also
Absolutely.
like that you read that out, and just putting that in the context of the fact that it was a 4-hour film and that the love did eventually develop, with patience and with time, as it was saying in that quote.
Because it struck,
That's so
because
cool,
Yu's
yeah.
relationship with Yoko struck us as the stereotypical I love her so much. How come she doesn't love me? I deserve love. Like really sort of gross projection of my love unto you, therefore you must love me. And she was totally justified in rejecting him basically the entire film.
Yep, I agree.
And he did some really appalling stuff, but which is why I was really afraid, like how are they going to bring this back at the end, where our protagonist, who is kind of terrible, gets the girl, and I kind of want him to get the
I
girl,
get
but obviously
you.
the
I'm
girl
feeling
doesn't
you.
want to be with him.
It should be noted that when she was reading out the whole quote, she read out nearly the whole thing. And that was a scene that was maybe 3 minutes long of just a single extreme close-up of her reading it out. While she has sort of wrestled her way in a defensive position on top of him.
Yeah.
She got the full mount.
Just before she's trying to escape, because she managed to get a quick breakaway after she was kidnapped. And I'd just like to say it was almost certain that she was reading like directly off some paper or something, because of the way that the camera was looking, and it wasn't quite. It looked to me like she was just reading off some paper.
I would have trusted the actor to be, a good enough actor to not have to rely on lines. Like I feel like certain actors have like a dignity where it's like, even though there's this chance for me to read lines off screen, off camera, I'm not going to do that. I think I would trust Yoko's actor to be like, no, I'm going to memorize these lines.
She was
that's one of the most powerful.
a good actress.
Yeah.
I was convinced by her emotions and her capacity.
Because that was one of the most
act.
powerful scenes in the entire movie. I feel, maybe that's just me, but I feel like,
I totally see what you mean. You'd like to believe, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But I reckon she was totally. I reckon, but
Okay.
that's not even a criticism. That's not even a
But
criticism.
in that scene, and you, Andrew, talked about this, the cinematography, the camera work. I disagree with you, Asher. It was a shame, because especially in that scene where it's supposed to track, down to the ground and getting close. They just
so
botched
bad.
it. It looked like they botched it.
That
He
was
just
so
like,
bad. It looked like that he
shaking all over the
lost his
place.
grip and was like, haven't quite got it.
But also,
I'd actually argue that the only time the cinematography failed was in the scenes when they were sitting down, like in the car, or when it was like really quiet, and then you have the shaky cam, and then I kind of felt like, they could have maybe stabilized it,
Another point of the cinematography that had me on edge, which I don't know if it's intentional, was that like early on in the first third of the film, in the interactions between Yoko and you, that the camera angles and how it would shift had me really on edge. I thought that Yoko was just gonna stab him or something crazy like this. Just the way that the camera angles really quick cuts, and also how it just felt like a horror film. The way that it was.
The transitions as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, is she gonna? For some reason, I was thinking she's gonna stab him. There was nothing else other than the general.
She nearly did.
Please stop talking me thing. But she didn't necessarily have a knife on at the time.
Not at that time, but she did later on. She was planning to kill him at one point.
Yeah, I just don't think that was intentional. It just seemed like an oversight, because it obfuscated the other issues and themes of the film.
I don't know. I really like the transitions, and those kind of quick cuts. But again, we've been over this.
Look,
And-
your opinion sucks, man. Okay.
And clearly, I should leave this room.
Asher, are you done? Because I've been waiting almost 30 minutes.
Yeah, you must be
He has
like
so much to say.
You must be positively salivating.
I'm basically done. I like the
Okay,
film, but there are a few technical things, and the craft of it. The blood looked silly. Other things,
But that's
which just
intentional.
brings it down.
It's meant to be like they have like the guy gets cut and he has like 5 different blood spurts from the same cut. It's meant to be over the top.
The color was kind of off too, but blah blah blah.
Yep.
I broadly liked the film, but there were
Yep.
some crafting issues, and I think it could have been even shorter. Didn't need to be that long.
Yep. Okay. So I guess I'll finally
yeah, Lewis, why
get a
don't you
word
tell
in
us your
edgewise.
Oh, I
yeah?
gave it a 7 out of 10. By the way, I didn't say that. Carry on.
You did more. You said it
did
at the start.
at the start.
At
Yeah.
the very beginning.
Anyways, I likewise gave that a 7 out of 10.
Nice.
Good choice, Asher. Although
Right.
some of your points, I feel like you missed the deeper meaning behind this film.
Oh,
No.
jeez.
So, yeah, for me, this film was all over the place. The first hour, I think, as Asher said, the first hour, I
Other
loved
Asher.
it. Sorry, other Asher, yes. I would have given this like an 8, maybe an 8.5. First of all, I thought the film, like the first 20 minutes, I thought it was going to be like a thriller horror because it's like, we're dealing with this priest, he's lost his wife, and then he starts being like, a typical sort of corrupted priest who's like, all about, sin and evil. And I thought that was going to end up with you going from doing like little crimes or little sins, I guess, stepping on ants and not helping ladies cross the road. I thought it was actually going to end up with him turning into like a serial killer sort of, trope. And then once it was like, he needs the real sin to get the priest, which totally makes sense. You think of like, conservative religion, culture. like, sex, a lot of like sexual crimes. When we got him studying the quote martial art, I guess, of taking upskirt panty shots.
And also in Japan as well.
Yeah.
With the perverted stuff.
I love that. I thought, like, when they started showing off all these, spins and flips
That
and like
was so
the yo-yo stuff, I was fucking dying. I
was
love that shit so
hilarious.
much. Yeah, especially how they were so, like, they weren't playing it off, like, the characters themselves, which was Yu and his three boys, they weren't really playing it off as something that's, like, totally absurd. They were like, wow, this is such an ancient art. It's so fucking cool. How can he just do that? God, I wish that was me. And so I love the first hour. It did get a bit repetitive where it was like we just had montage after montage of, you sort of messing up, but then finally, he's got all the techniques down. And then the second, I guess I'll say the chapters, because that was the first chapter. That was Yu's chapter. And then there were two sort of quick-ish chapters we jumped into. There was Coco, what was her name? Kokwe?
Koike.
Koike. So there was Koike's chapter, and there was also Yoko's chapter. And for both of these girls, the two other main characters in the film, we see their backstory. We see they have a pretty abusive upbringing, and that, it makes sense. That's why they're sort of, all fucked up in future. And that was when the film really, really went dark, especially with Koike's backstory, where we see her, like, I was cringing as her father's, like, not only just when she snaps off her dad's dick, but when her father is, like, like whipping her with his
Whoa.
belt, and then she's like being taught to repeat this, give it to me, as if the father's trying to say,
Which was spoken in English.
Yeah, exactly.
which was
That stuff.
interesting.
And this also relates, I guess, to the wider idea of, like, the religious and cultish aspect of the film, because obviously the reason why they chose Christianity is just because I feel like there's way more cultic offshoots of Christianity than any other religion. Because when I think of, like, all the famous cults, I can think of a few, like, from like Shintoism in Japan that are sort of widespread, but usually, at least for me, they're always like, Christian offshoots or Catholic offshoots about these crazy, like, families who, like, they're sort of incestual, and then they start, like, their own, like, massive foundation that, starts actually taking in profits and abusing people. And so I really like that idea,
The
because
evangelical side of
yeah,
things.
and with the father, I really liked his story, because it was like, he's a good person, but he goes through all this shit with his wife leaving him. Then he finds another woman who he thinks is good, and she leads him astray, and then she abandons him, and then he's totally broken, and he starts abusing his own son, like, his innocent, adorable little son. And it's like, oh, is he going to go to the evil side? And the whole time we've got the Zero Church in the background. They're the actual, like, big adversity representing the evil side of organized religion. And we also see that in a small aspect, not so much religion, but I guess people who are controlling and abusive, with the father of Yoko and the father as well of Koike. And so I really love that, because I guess the final 3 hours of the film was totally dark. We got rid of that comedy, which for me was a shame, because I really enjoyed the comedy. But then when we have just, like, the gore, and, like, it was sort of like exploitative gore, like, as I talked about, a single cut, like 5 blood spurts. We have, like, close-ups of swords going through bodies. And I keep going back to it, the dick being snapped in half. There was such a good build up to it, because it's like the daughter, she's like flicking it around and, like, making a big joke at it. It's like a big build up to it. It's, oh god, because we already know that she snapped it off.
Yeah,
And it's
because
just-
she mentions it early.
She's like toying with it. It was menacing. And I thought Koike, like, you said the father was the best actor. I didn't think of him as the best actor. I thought the main character, Yu, I thought he was fantastic, because he can go from playing this innocent little schoolboy to, and, like, it was very jarring when he starts committing all these sins, because he's got all these bruises all over his face, and then he's just got that massive smile.
grin.
He's like,
Yeah,
he's
that
like
laughing.
skipping around, and that music is all upbeat. And Koike, I thought she had a totally evil, sinister look about her. I loved it. She looked so sadistic. It was like,
acting mad, acting crazy is way easier than acting normal.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying, for me, their acting still connected with me more. Because
Fair,
I will say, I do agree with you that the father was the most quote unquote normal of the characters. But
That's why I think
yeah.
I rated him the best actor,
Yeah.
because he was
he wasn't
the most
yeah.
realistic
'Cause this was-
character.
even though I
all
did-
the other characters were totally
yeah,
unrealistic.
that's what I loved about the film, though, because the entire cast of characters, they're all crazy. We have the two girls who have really abusive upbringings, and they, like, either hate men or start their own drug, like dealing in drug selling offshoot, like religious artifacts. That was crazy.
She says, I have 17 occupations.
that was so
and then lists
funny.
them all.
She's
They're all crazy.
And then we've
sell
got
drugs.
what was the mother's name, Kaori, I think it was.
Yeah,
the
Kaori.
stalker, and, like, she's crazy. She finds this priest, and she's like, "Oh, I'm evil. I want to become a Christian." But then she abandons him, and she does it, like, almost twice. She keeps going back, and the father, his felt the most human issue, where it's like, my wife's left me. I found another woman. She's led me away from my
No,
religion.
my wife died.
She
Well,
left
sorry.
me.
Yeah.
Why did she do that?
Well,
Why
she
did she have to
she
die?
did technically leave him in that sense.
Sure.
She left him for the
It
other
was
world.
rude of her to die,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
So
yeah,
rude.
but my point being, he didn't go into the more cartoonish realm. Like I really felt bad for him, especially when it's like he feels to throw himself into his religion, which he needs in this difficult time, as he has to go against his son. Like he has to become very authoritarian, so he feels some connection to his religion. And then we slowly see, he's able to doing these panty up close shot things. He's able to finally get back on his father's good side, and it looks like maybe he won't have to go this route. But through doing all this, he ends up finding the one true love that it was almost as if his late mother prophesized to him that he would one day meet. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. But the one thing, because I really, really enjoyed this film, but the 4 hours, so I'm doing the Italian thing with my hands, I don't know why. The 4 hours of this film, like the last 2 hours, I was really, 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 really struggling to stay awake at some point, because it was almost as if I know these characters very well, like the cast of 5 or 6 whatever main characters, but we sort of just see them going through the same motions where it's like he's still remaining very crazy about Yoko, he's still like dressing up in drag, trying to win her over, and that lasted about 2 hours, and we get the conclusion of that in the final 30 minutes, like the actual proper conclusion of that in the final 30 minutes. But up until that point, he'd just keep trying to win her over. She'd keep saying no. There was a bit where she was like, oh yeah, I can actually get along with you, and it was like,
only because she was told to get along with him by himself in his alter ego,
and also
which she respected.
It was also the same with Koike, where it's like for the entire 3 hours we see she's a mastermind, and I like the idea of us very slowly seeing her mastermind, intelligent plan come together. All the chess pieces on the board are slowly coming together. But for me, it just took too long. And even though you were saying this film was 8 hours and they cut it down to 6 and then to 4, I honestly think this film should have been 2 hours max.
Can I just say, I don't think that Koike had, the way that the film played out was her original master plan. I think that she was just continuously escalating as she was trying to, make him love her in the only way that she knew how because of her abusive background, if that makes sense. So it kept escalating, and it wasn't like a grand overarching plan of right at the start, all right, I'm going to indoctrinate the entire family.
No. It was totally a grand plan.
Yeah.
In my opinion, because she wanted to bring him down to her level.
I was pretty sure that she articulated her plan, which was to maybe
she did. There was a shot, that scene where she was up in the head office of the Zero Church, and she's
and she wants
the big thing is to bring in families. I know a family I
she
can
wants
bring
to
in.
expand the cult. I think she really is a believer in this cult.
However, no. She was using it as an excuse because
Yeah,
she was
definitely an
interested in
excuse.
you.
She didn't
Right.
believe
So,
it.
The
so they
excuse
were
being-
like, it's only one family, and she was like, it's not just one family.
It's a whole
To
congregation.
me,
That's a good
she
point.
believed
She
in the cult
intensely cared about you.
She cared for the cult to the extent that she used it for financial gain.
Yeah.
That's where she cared
She
about. But
was-
she
she
also
was
saw,
involved with
she
that.
clearly did see some unusual interest in you. And-
But likewise, she cared about the plan of getting the family into the cult to the extent that she cared about getting you to love her,
I don't think they really properly explored her love for. I think Andrew made this point.
She was the most complex character.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can
overall,
see,
I liked her.
I could see
even
there are a
though
lot
she
of
did have some problems.
plot points in her backstory we saw where it's she doesn't really understand love, got this terrible upbringing. So you can sort of make out from this debris of backstory. Oh yeah, I guess it makes sense why she would have these very complex feelings towards you and why she wants to sort of enslave him and control him, but she also has some affection towards him, and that's why I really enjoyed once you. It looks like we almost think Yu has actually totally accepted the Zero Church once he's in there, because he's wiping the floors, wiping the
he's getting
seats.
involved.
Yeah, and
and
he's even
not becoming erect.
not
which was
becoming erect in front of.
That was an important plot
It
point.
was.
Yeah, exactly.
Before he could-
We know it's not real because that would never happen in
That
real
could
life.
only happen
Yeah.
when he saw Yoko, the only one he loved, even though he sees millions of panties all the time.
Yeah.
My final little point is to do with, I guess, the music and also some of the shots. You mentioned the word trance before. I wrote in my notes hypnotizing. I felt a lot of the shots in this movie of the course of the 4 hours were very hypnotizing, where it's just these soft little melodies playing over, and it's that sort of shaky, handheld camera, very close up on someone's face, and especially those shots where it was Yoko, where she's on top of Yu. Sorry, there's so many names. Yuko on top of Yu, and she's giving that 3-minute long monologue. I find those very, I don't know, enchanting, where it's just we're just focusing on this one character. You've got the beach and the sea in the background, and she's just running off these ideas of relating to as Asher said, the actual words were what, faith, destiny, and love.
Oh no,
something
it
like
was
that.
faith, hope, love.
Faith, hope, love. Yeah, and I guess that counters very nicely with the absolute gore in the final hour, where especially when he brought out the bloody samurai sword and he's running through, kicking down these doors, slicing people up. It was a real variety film, but yeah, the fact that there was 4 hours to tell this, I really, really struggled to get into it
Yeah,
the entirety.
It would have been way better as a television show.
Yes, it would have been.
It would have been
like 12 episodes
amazing. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
seriously, because then the extreme development that they offer in the film for each character could have been an episode.
Yep, yep.
They
How
could have an
much-
episode on Keiko.
4 hours of stuff that we didn't see. Like how
That
much?
could be a Netflix
Exactly
miniseries.
why it was originally 8 hours.
Yeah.
Because there would have been enough content for several
But
episodes.
do you know? Oh yeah, sorry. Something else is that this actually did receive, I think, a much shorter edit. It was like brought to 2.5 or 3 hours for Japanese TV, like way after it was released. And that was like really heavily criticized. And I think people
thing
who
is,
watched that without seeing the original didn't
I don't
think
think
it
the
was that
film
good.
should have been edited to 2 hours. I think it should have been written for 2 hours.
Yeah,
There's
no,
a difference.
sure.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Every scene, I kind of get what you're saying, because every scene, most scenes were
Yeah.
pretty important,
Yeah, like-
or it progressed the story.
Yeah, exactly. Like you need, I'd say, like at least 80%, maybe closer to 90% of these scenes you needed, especially
Yeah.
to flesh out the characters so you have some attachment to them
Exactly.
at the end. But as I said, just seeing the characters sort of go through their characteristics over and over, the father, he's in love with this woman, but he's conflicted about his religion and whether he can actually commit to her. Yu's just in love with Yoko over and over and constantly trying to win her over. It just sort of wore me down by the end. But look, it was still a good, very good film. I loved the comedy. I thought the gore and the dark themes they explored didn't explore maybe they did explore very in-depthly, but I'm too stupid to pick them up. I did like that. It was sort of like a nice little, treat on the top. And yeah, I thought the cinematography was fine. I thought the action scenes themselves, at least with that big fight around the 1 or 1.5 hour mark where Yu meets Yoko, the quote-unquote miracle, I thought that was sort of bad because there's too many people, the cameras are swishing around, I couldn't really focus on everything. But yeah, good film, 7 out of 10.
I'd like to jump on that on that scene in terms of the cinematography, because we saw it from a second perspective, Yoko's perspective, and we saw different angles in that shot. Sorry, in that scene.
And the
one from
fight.
within the group of ruffians.
And we also saw her flip off the car as well. That
Yeah.
was
And then
Yeah.
that karate group that what do you call his character? Koike suddenly fights off. I was confused by that.
I don't know what they were doing there.
Maybe they were just civilians who were trying
they
to
were
help.
they were a passing by
yeah.
karate team.
Probably running around the block
And
after
they
high
got
school.
their ass
Yeah.
handed to them by a 20-year-old girl.
She was also a black belt. It was
She
stated.
said she was.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, evidently she
Whatever.
was, because she
Yeah.
took out all those people.
yeah.
It's interesting. I would have actually liked. This sounds weird. I would have liked more development in Koike's character, because we also saw some shots of her, like her gunning down everyone in her classroom at one point.
Yes.
like that was
Wait, was
that was
that
just out of
her?
nowhere.
I
Yeah,
thought
that was
she was
that was
talking about
Koike.
a girl.
No, yeah, no, that was Koike, and
Was that Quickie?
yeah.
Well, are you sure? I didn't take. I thought that I took that as a random girl that
Yeah, I thought that was just
whoever it was
Oh.
happened to have known, and she was like, "Wow, imagine if I was there in that classroom."
I'm
because
pretty sh-
obviously
yeah.
she was there, but she wasn't actually there. Because
I must admit, I was confused by that scene.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if she was visualizing herself again, or if it was something that like she was like another school shooter.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting. She
No,
was
but
the school shooter type.
I took it as Yoko's character, seeing her and everything, and then her shooting Yoko's character, and then like a bit later on, then what do you call Koike's character? Sorry, I'm getting confused at the names. Came to the new school, so it was like she got moved out of her old school because she obviously killed everyone. But then like,
That's
why
totally
could she
what
kill
happens.
everyone and get away with it? It didn't make
yeah,
any
like
sense.
the fact they didn't really bring that up again in too much direct detail. I think it was that she was just like, "Oh, this is a crazy thing. I hate men. I'm sort of misanthropic. This is something I could imagine myself doing." That's why we saw her like visualizing herself being in there, being killed by this person. With like, because we know she actually wasn't there, or else because they never developed on it again.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay,
I don't know, it was confusing.
I just like to point out we've been going for about 45 minutes. We've all
Very
given
nice.
very long little bits of our opinions, and we want to wrap this one up quickly. So, aspersions. Who's the most suspicious? Who's the most flamboyant?
Sure, I think it could be Andrew, just because there's room for him to vote this 8.5. You voted this as 6.5. Ashley, you voted this an 8.5, didn't you?
No,
No, he
eight.
gave it an
An
8.
8.
Eight out of 10.
I gave this a 7.
I think there's room for Andrew to have voted this an 8.5.
See, I think Andrew could have even rated it a 4.5. Like, I'm
Goodness.
quite used to his harsh, critiques of films.
Yeah,
I know Andrew's
on,
harsh
Lewis.
ratings, and I don't think he would. I don't think he'd go that like to me, like going like 5 or like less, like 5.5 or less. To me, that's a bit absurd because there's so much going on with this film. Like it's sort of like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid for me. Sorry, spoilers for you. Anyways, because there's like, there's a wide variety of things. There's some, thematic exploration that you can get into. As if you're like me and you really like, you can really get on with the ideas of like, religious and cultic horror, even if it's not like direct horror, just the idea of like, oh, these crazy people indoctrinating everyone. I love that backdrop. And then you've also got the comedy, you've got the totally absurd setting with all these very wild characters, and you have like the horror and gore. I guess I'm just saying, I want to trust you, Andrew. Look at me. I want to trust you because, I feel like on a human level, I know you. I know you on a human level, and I know that you would not look at this film and be like, there's nothing worthwhile here. This is a bad film.
But wait, guys,
so you're saying 4.5 or whatever? I disagree with.
Guys, but wait, there could have been blood magic in this film.
What'd you say?
Guys, he's given it a 10 out of 10. He's the Mafia.
Blood magic, hell yeah.
Oh shit. That final scene with that blood, the way it cut into 4 different bursts, blood magic,
Man,
right
hell
there.
yeah. I love that shit. I'm most suspicious of Asher. And not just because he accused me, though that has a lot to do with it. I'm suspicious.
Yeah.
I'm suspicious of him in the sense that I think choosing me to have been his initial target, assuming he is Mafia, was the smartest thing to do. Because my score was the most different to everyone else's, and furthermore, I went first. Talking first is very difficult.
Yeah.
However, I think Asher could have rated this film a 5. I don't think he would have rated this film a 9.
I was about to say I don't think he would, but then I was thinking maybe the length did get to him because Asher's known to like long films. Like he can get a bit sleepy. He can be a bit of a sleepy boy. Oh God! Now I don't know. Now you've planted that. No, I don't know. I don't think he would.
Look, Lewis, let me just make this real easy for you.
Okay.
I'm not the Mafia.
Okay. Thank you,
solved.
Asher.
I really do not think that other Asher is the Mafia. In
I
my
don't know.
mind, he is totally clear.
Yeah.
I agree.
The fact that he also suggested this film,
I agree.
and is giving it out of 10.
To be honest, I came into this thinking I'd be giving it a higher score just because I'd heard so many good reviews. And as I said, I'm really sympathetic to a 7 out of 10 or even a 6.5 out of 10. If I rewatch this, I could see myself giving it that score.
Wait, sorry, a 6 point? Did you say?
Yeah, even possibly. I mean, I think that's more unlikely than a 7 out of 10 if I chose to lower my score. But I'm just so unsure about it.
Actually, can I just drill you on something? In what ways was this film similar to Phantom of the Paradise? And
why do we always have to bring it back to Phantom of the Paradise?
Because I'm
Phantom of the
entertaining
Paradise
idea.
is quite a good discussion point.
Yeah, because it's
I
Andrew
hated it.
and Asher loves it. Like his
there are
favorite
some,
film of
okay,
all time.
actually some meaningful
similarities. There are
discourse.
some
Yeah.
similarities.
Phantom of the Paradise's scope was much smaller, which I think worked in its... Oh, it wasn't a small scope compared to other films, but relative to this film, it was a lot more manageable for them to deal with the themes and for them to
the Paradise sucked.
create a formalist paradise. See? Yeah.
Thanks, man.
But with this one, I think it was similar kind of like style, similar kind of like formalism with the filmmaking, but it was just, there was so much there, and I don't think on a first viewing that it tied everything up and all of the themes worked together as well as Phantom of the Paradise did, just because there was so much. But again, like, I'm open to being wrong. Maybe I'll rewatch this and it'll be a 9 out of 10. I know that that's a real easy escape to say, oh, I might change my views. But
It is. We have had that before where people have admitted that.
But it's true.
Yeah, it is.
Furthermore, in my mind, Asher is totally clear. Other Asher, that is.
Yeah.
And I think Lewis is pretty clear for the same reason that he used to defend me, in the sense that this film was so chock full of content that was good that it would be difficult to give this film a 5 out of 10. I could see him giving it a 5, but I definitely couldn't see him giving it a 9.
Not a 9.
Whereas...
Not a 5.
but a 7.
Yeah.
And
Right in the
I
sweet
guess the thing I wanted to say the most is that I think that everyone has done a really good job of talking. No
Thanks.
joke.
I've been practicing.
Yeah.
No joke. I think
Since I was 1.
I think this is a tough round.
1. Jesus.
Because I'm not normally, even when I've been wrong before, I'm 100% certain it's a guy. But I can't even say it's
Shit,
Asher
if we got a girl
for
on this
certain.
podcast, he
Yeah.
would be foiled.
Yeah, he'd be
I
fine.
can't even say it's Asher for certain. I just think there's the most leeway with him, given that I'm certain in you and pretty sure.
It's like a game of probabilities.
I have another little.
Exactly.
This is sort of
I've
a
pretty
joke.
much whittled it down because Ash's speaking
Yeah.
was normal. If he is Mafia, this is the best Mafia
Yeah.
he's ever played.
I mean,
In
wait, guys.
If he is
It's as
Mafia,
if,
it's the
as
best
if
he's
we've
ever
done 12 episodes
Yeah,
of
yeah.
this, and I'm no longer nervous.
Okay,
but-
no more talking. I've got a little point. This is a half joke, half point. With Asher, the fact that he hasn't accused me of being Mafia this time, I find very suspicious. Even the last episode.
Lewis, you voted the same as I
I know.
did.
I'm saying, but even the fact that you last episode you did still, even though like I very quickly convinced you because I was like, okay, no, I'm getting mad. You were like for like a
No,
very,
I'm getting mad. Oh, I'm sorry.
For a little bit, you were like, you know what? I think it could be Lewis. And the fact that you haven't done that now, I feel like you're trying to do like 3D, like 4D chess, being like, okay, the fact that I won't accuse him now, it'll show him. Oh yeah, I'm trusting you, Lewis, and trying to bring me over to his side.
Let me defend my
Yes, I
your
would like
rating.
yeah, go
Let me
ahead and
defend your rating.
I don't want you to accuse me, but
7 out of 10
Yeah.
makes sense for you because you're a fan of Japanese culture, and I think this was an interesting exploration of Japanese specific themes, like the significance of faith and family
and panty shots.
and panty shots.
exactly,
Like these are very interesting, very
to be
Japanese.
fair, I feel like if it
themes.
was a proper exploration of Japanese faith, it would have looked into Shintoism. But I
Sure,
understand what you mean. It was still
sure.
looking at Japanese society through a religious lens, so I get that.
Yeah, and I think that you wouldn't give this a 9 out of 10. That's quite high
Yeah.
for the faults.
9
that
out
I
of 10
see.
is Seven Samurai level shit.
and
this
then
is
5
not
out of
that.
10 would only be worth watching. Just
Yep.
and that's just odd, and you wouldn't go further.
Yep.
You wouldn't go further down.
What do you think about me?
Jesus Christ, other Asher. What do I think
His
about
8
you?
out of 10 is confusing because
Very.
I can't imagine him. Well, that's the thing.
There's
I
no
feel like
way he gave this a 6 or a 10,
Well,
right?
no, I was going to say there is a
That's
chance
tough.
he gave this a 10 out of 10 because he talked about how he
No,
saw...
no, I don't think
Why did
so.
you just nod?
Oh no, I was saying nodding as if agreeing that yes, that is a
Okay.
valid criticism
Nah,
of
man,
my
I don't-
position because of Phantom of the Paradise. You know.
Okay.
There's no
similar.
way he could give this film a 10 out of
I
10.
genuinely think he could because it had that sort of... He even mentioned it. It had that sort of amateurist style with the cinematography.
I'm a big
where,
fan of that.
You know, and it's not like everything... It's like, oh, everything's professional. We're going to have the camera set up. The character's going to walk through. It had not only sort of, I guess you'd call it messy cinematography, but a messy plot where it's all these very absurd characters, like on a comedic level, and then the gore. I feel like that could have appealed to him way more. But
Asher-
I am still undecided.
Other Asher does have an appreciation for like
Yeah.
sort of surreal things.
Yep.
But even though knowing that,
He's
has-
just agreeing with everything.
even though
No,
knowing
it's valid
that,
points.
I know, it's just
even,
funny. 'cause
even though knowing that, I think there were parts that were too unrealistic, even for a boy like Asher who likes a bit of Stranger Things,
Mm-hmm.
to give this film a 10 out of 10. I think the maximum he could have given this was a 9 or maybe a 9.5. if he really
two
liked
points.
it.
2 points. One, I was never a big fan of Stranger Things. I thought the first season was alright, and then it was bad
Oi.
after that. Secondly, I think it was actually, or maybe it's your use of the term unrealistic. I think if it went more kind of on the absurdist level instead of kind of petering off after the first hour and a half, then I would have liked it a lot more. But it got a lot more realist, and it got a lot more kind of to do with the drama. And even though, I mean, that was cool, it was neat ideas and everything, and it was playing into the overall themes of the film, I thought it would have been cooler if they really, if the director really took it off and just 4 hours of just craziness, Which, I mean, it was to an extent, but just maybe not as much as it could have been, which I would have liked more.
I think you're safe, Asher. 8 out of 10 makes sense for you because it's not as... I don't know. I think... What did I rate Phantom of the Paradise?
It would be dangerous.
you go
As good as
Phantom of
Phantom of
Paradise 7 out of 10.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
It would be dangerous to say that he isn't safe, given that Lewis and I are pretty confident in his safety.
Oh, so you're like challenging him, being like,
I mean, I'm just saying that was a
Yeah,
smart
Again,
thing to do.
probabilities, yeah.
Yes.
I just think there have been times when Andrew has been meta and analysing our plays, and
Yeah.
then there are times that he doesn't. And amateur statistician as I am, I've tended to notice a trend whereby he is the Mafia when he commentates on the person's decision making, who he has chosen to cast aspersions
no,
on.
I disagree. He does that very frequently. I genuinely, he does that quite
He
frequently.
does that every
bloody
second of every
enigma.
day, okay?
Trust me, I have to edit all these episodes. I'll listen to like Andrew say like,
Oh, no, it's okay.
say
We
some
can trust
strategy.
him. We can trust him. He said trust him.
Well,
It looks like you've made a mistake.
No, I don't think so. I
I'm
think-
still undecided.
Andrew, I think you could have rated this an 8.5.
8.5.
I think there's far less of a chance that you have rated this a 4.5, but it could be
Oh,
done.
man.
I think it would be more realistic that either of us three have rated it lower than we did.
Yeah, you.
Not myself, because
No, what do you give it? 7? No,
a
you wouldn't.
7 out of 10.
Seven. Yeah, it would be surprising.
You wouldn't have given this. You wouldn't have
It
given
would
this.
be
I'm still open
surprising
to
for him.
all of you. You guys have moved
Can
away
I
from
can I chime
Asher.
in?
Yeah,
Because I'm
please.
the only one who hasn't given my thoughts.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think Andrew's safe. Like similarly, he thinks that I'm safe. But genuinely, I can't imagine him giving it an 8.5 because I know that he's the harshest critic out of all of us. And I know that there were definitely unexplained things on a first viewing about this film that he would not have liked. And also the surrealistic stuff that I really like in Phantom of the Paradise. But anyway, that's besides the point. I can't see him also giving it a 4. Or I see it more plausible of him giving it a 4.5 out of 10. Like, yeah, maybe he's not
Wait,
safe.
let
I
me
don't
say-
know.
let me say-
I liked this film.
I'm sorry. No, you're
Andrew,
safe. You like the film, guys.
I think that the soundtrack and the music that was there,
Yeah,
like
it was
the,
cool.
The choral elements were the Gregorian. I don't know if they're Gregorian chants. Andrew would know because he's sung them himself, and I think you would have had a very an interesting, like, empathetic reaction to those scenes, and you would have think, "Oh, this is stirring up the emotions that I felt when I've
That's
sung
why
this
he connects
myself."
to the father as well, someone who's like
And
losing
it's-
their faith.
Yeah,
sort of.
and I think so. You've really connected with one of the themes, which has amplified the dichotomy between the other themes, and it's made it a really rich experience for you. I wouldn't be surprised if this was like a blowing you away sort of.
The
film.
melodrama was really there, and I can definitely see Andrew liking
The
that.
entire film, even though it was like crazy and absurd, it did feel very atmospheric
Yeah,
and like
and that's
dramatic
what I'm
with that.
thinking. I think that Andrew
that was what
really
I was talking about with like that sort of trance-like state
locked into
you
the
sort of go
atmosphere.
into with like the music, even in those scenes where it's like you was like skipping along after he's been like brutally like attacked.
Yeah.
Like they're very odd scenes, but they're like oddly calming, I guess. So
And-
Moving on to Lewis,
No,
though.
well, Andrew
Yep.
should defend himself. I think briefly.
Unless Andrew wants to.
I can briefly defend myself by listing, in order to get myself down from perceived 8.5, I'll tell you some more things that I disliked about the film.
okay,
So I've noted here, they sure play Bolero a lot.
Oh, they did.
And I
Or
did
was
mention
that the other one?
I did mention
That is the other
Bolero.
one. Bolero was only played a few times.
No, they played it a lot. They still played
well
it a
as
lot.
Symphony Number 7.
Yes, as well as that. I mentioned that before. But there were parts that didn't make sense.
Wait, did or didn't?
Didn't
Didn't.
make sense.
Okay.
Why did she take such a fast interest in him? And for me, that could have only have been just for the story. Even though we have explored that she did have a very troubled past and she saw some similarities
Yeah.
between herself and him, I don't think humans behave like that.
see, that's a similar criticism you made about Phantom of the Paradise, and for me, I was like, you know, this film isn't going for total realism. I can excuse this stuff to get to like, you know, the very good comedy and, you know, Phantom of the Paradise, I guess the very interesting, like, you know, music and stuff.
So that should support me then.
No,
by
that makes me
by
think that
saying-
your rating would be lower because you've mentioned. Well, I'm going to hear out what else you're going
I
to
see.
say,
You're,
but that makes
you're
me
thinking
think
that one point is
Yeah.
so important to me that I would
yes,
rate a
because
film
that
2
was
out
so
of 10.
big for you in Phantom of the Paradise, where you were like nothing made sense. And you even made the same point where it was like, why did Winslow? Why did he take such a massive interest in the main female lead so suddenly? And you actually pointed that out, and you're making a very similar point here.
Yeah. The difference is that I liked the actors, their acting, and the characters more.
Okay.
In the sense that Keiko, Koike, was an actually interesting villainess. She definitely had some depth to her. I wanted to know more about her, but I didn't want to know more about the
Swan.
characters in Phantom of the Paradise.
Yeah.
Because it was just too bad. The film was interesting. I was hooked at this point. I wanted to know more. I had to know more.
Yeah.
But in Phantom of the Paradise, I was already gone. I was
Okay.
done 30 minutes in because I wanted to leave that film. This film, I couldn't leave. There was no way I could have left. There was too much that I had to know. There was too much that I had to learn.
Yeah, it definitely like it's enthralling. It brings you in where it's like, okay, well, it just as Ashley said, like, okay, we have this character who's, you know, a bit of a bastard. How are we going to redeem him? Yeah. And they didn't properly give a conclusion, but it sort of implied it's going to be, you know, everything's going to be all right. He just escaped from the police.
well,
Yeah.
actually,
But you know, that handshake, like the it's meant to imply like a positive feeling at the end.
What
That's
it
I meant.
implies is that love is the only thing that matters. It doesn't, because bringing it back to 1 Corinthians, it doesn't actually matter what happens to you. It doesn't matter if you're in prison. All that matters is that you feel love and you speak honestly about
I'm
your
saying
love.
that they didn't really explore the actual story at the end, but like the theme,
Right, so
as you just
it's
said,
left
of
up
love
to
at the end. That's what
it's
I
left
like.
up to
Yeah.
the unknown, but it's pretty presumed that they're not going to have a smooth ride
That's
out of
why
here.
I asked near the
but
end.
that they'll be okay okay because they have love.
That's why I asked near the end, like, is this a standalone, or I said this at the time we're watching the film viewing, is this a standalone or is there a sequel? Because I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I know we're near the end. They've already done so much. There's so many loose
lot of
ends that they
knots to
haven't.
undo, yeah.
And, you know, again, I was a little unsatisfied with the ending, but the idea that, like, Yoko and you are going to finally be together, going to actually explore that, you know, obviously off screen, off paper, you know, it's a nice idea. I can go to bed happy knowing that.
Just to give context to what Lewis just said, this film is a part of a trilogy, not like a direct trilogy, but a thematic trilogy. I think it's like Hate or Revenge or something like that. The next film in this trilogy was Coldfish, and then there was something else after that. So worth watching if you like this film.
And if I can say to that, I think this will be our least viewed episode.
Yeah,
I disagree, because this is a real cult film. A lot of cinephiles.
that is
Who,
true.
who the hell is going to take our advice and actually watch this 4-hour film?
Yeah. That's
Like
true.
you-
Seven Samurai is different.
I'd
because-
recommend this film. It's
You
worth a
should,
watch.
but I would also recommend not listening to this without watching the film because we
Yeah.
haven't really got into
I
it.
understand, like he's saying, like people who aren't like, I guess we've sort of thrown ourselves into the film world, the cinema
Yeah.
world. I think people outside of that bubble aren't really going to, especially because it's like, oh, what's this foreign shit? 4 hours? I can imagine that. Like it's different with
hopefully.
Seven Samurai because that's like a legendary film.
Absolutely. I'll do a little PSA when we announce it. Just really trying to urge people to also don't watch this with your family. It's extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, there are a lot of really interesting themes. Incest, pedophilia.
And
you know.
you could
Those
do
are
it
disgusting.
really,
Why do you find those so
Really
interesting?
though, you could, you
I'm
could-
so sorry.
This film could be taken the wrong way. You know, you could have a really bad reaction to it. You could think, "Oh my god, this is
Yeah,
a
you could
horrific
have
I
film."
could see some people getting really upset at this
Really
film,
upset, yeah,
even
absolutely.
though it I thought it was pretty decent overall in the scene. Even though there were some, you know, naughty concepts and some naughty shots, it was primarily the ideas behind them, and it was tinged with a lot of comedy, particularly the panty
Yeah.
shots. It was so surreal that a viewer could only see that it was a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, just moving on to questioning Lewis,
Yes,
because I
yes.
agree with everyone's thoughts about Asher. I think he might be the most likely suspect. I have yet to decide. But moving on to Lewis, you gave this film a 7 out of 10, right?
Yep. 7 out of 10.
So the thing is, like, it's difficult. I don't think you gave it a 9 out of 10.
I did
because-
not.
Yeah.
I gave this a 7 out of 10.
Oh,
Wait.
what's more likely?
Oh, so
What's
you're
more
saying you're
likely, a
not the
5 or a
Mafia?
9?
I'm saying
you
I'm
know?
not
Yeah,
Mafia.
exactly.
Because
That's
he
really
could-
Would you say 5.5?
No, a 5
We're
or
all
a
talking
9.
at once.
Yeah.
5.9? Maybe. No.
No, but I don't know. Like I could see you giving it a 5. The same reasons that I could see Andrew giving it a 4.5. You know, it's just you guys seem to be just the fact that not everything on the first viewing seemed to match up, and not every theme was directly or tied off.
So
with
you
a bow.
think because I couldn't, as I said, I couldn't connect to some of the themes. It seemed like very
Yeah,
not
it's
like
plausible,
convoluted, but
yeah.
it was like I feel like I have to pull off a lot of layers to really get some of the themes. You
Yeah,
mean
well,
like
I
that?
feel like there was so much there, and just from my own viewing of the film, I feel like there were definitely a lot of things that weren't necessarily tied off.
9's too high for both of them, and 5 is too low for both of them.
If I can just quickly defend myself, I will say this was like Phantom of the Paradise for me, except for Phantom of the Paradise, I enjoyed the themes way more. And I'm sorry we keep going back to Phantom of the Paradise, but I do think there's a correlation because they're both very absurd in their comedy and in their style. Not only just like the writing of the plot, but also like the directing style. With Love Exposure, I thought that, as I've already said, the gore, the comedy, the dark themes, I thought they were good, but with those themes, as opposed to Phantom of the Paradise, where it's to do with, the love for one's art and like, it has that sort of that fantasy element of someone who's got like this magic contract. I was able to connect with that way more. I was able to connect with Winslow and his struggle way more than I could with you.
But I really disagree. Like, I think.
What do you mean you disagree?
No, I disagree with what you just said about the themes being bad. I think the themes are amazing. in
I
this
did
film.
not say that. You
Oh,
listen back
okay,
to this.
no,
I never
maybe
said.
not
I
bad.
said I could not pick up on the themes, and that was mostly because there's too much content in this film. It's 4 hours.
Yep.
If I can go back and like look at frame by frame, I can probably pick up on this stuff and go through the dialogue more in depthly. But okay,
But
I'll
just
wrap things up,
finishing
Asher.
my point that I was
Asher's
saying.
rolling his fingers at me, telling me to wrap things
Just
up.
finishing my point, I think the difference between this isn't that the themes are better or worse in one. I think it's just the fact that Phantom of the Paradise had far fewer themes, and it was a lot easier on a first
I
viewing
can see
to
that.
think, oh, that was a really good film,
Yeah.
and see how they all tied up.
This is more of a like psychological, I guess, flair to it, as opposed to Phantom of the Paradise, which is more like it does have those
Which
themes.
had a stupid flair to it. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, okay.
But it had that connection
it's all-
of about a rescue.
Yeah, it
of
also
a girl.
had the music, which I loved. And yeah, so that's why I consider this film similar to Phantom of the Paradise, but not as great as Phantom of the Paradise, which I gave 8.5 out of 10 for the record. Looking at you, Andrew, just because the themes, I thought they were a bit convoluted, lasted too long. Phantom of the Paradise was like 2 hours.
You convinced me.
Well, thank you, Andrew.
convinced
Yeah,
me
me too.
He convinced me.
Okay, jeez.
And
I still
even
have no clue who I'm going for because I genuinely, I feel bad because you two have just, but like, and I literally, all of you are equal to me. I could genuinely believe you were like 10 out of 10.
Okay, if you really think that, do you really think I'd give a 10 out of 10 on a first viewing? Even Phantom of the Paradise, the first time I saw that, you read my Letterboxd review, it was a 7 out of 10.
No one's read your
putting
Letterboxd
that
review.
meta, putting that bit of meta
Yeah, yeah.
aside,
I shouldn't have said that.
there's no way that he gave it a 10 out of 10.
I
has to
don't
be
know.
no chance.
I get it.
Andrew, like playing the devil's advocate, I could give this film a 10 out of 10, but plausibly, but on repeated viewings. That's my point. Like, I couldn't, like, just watching what I watch now, completely, virgin eyes to it. There's no way I could give it a 10 out of 10, just given how much it was trying to cover. If I saw it like 3 or 4 times in the next few years, I can see myself being convinced this is a 10
Here
out
I
of
was
10.
thinking I was the worst at this game.
What you think?
No, but this is what I believe. I'm not lying.
It is
I'm
a
not
bold.
the Mafia.
I have done this
point.
before, where it's a bold strategy, but I've never been the Mafia for this. Where I say, if I really was the Mafia, I wouldn't say that, which is what I think he could be saying. I'm still undecided because I genuinely could think this is just his very unusual approach to the Cinemafia game, being like, no, I genuinely could be 10 out of 10.
I basically trust you so much, both of
I'll
you,
give my life to
that
you.
even though I'm,
We don't trust
that
Asher.
even
God,
though I
Asher.
wouldn't be convinced by Asher giving this a 9 or a 5, I still think he's just the most likely because if either of you is Mafia, you've done a great job at winning me over.
Looking at you.
If I was Mafia, right, and my as it is, my real thought is 7. If I was Mafia, I would rate this a 9, not a 5.
Wait, guys.
Interesting.
I have a litmus test, okay? 2 plus 2, what does it equal?
6.
3.
Shit, he's the Mafia, guys. We lied.
Oh,
Damn it!
See, we got him.
okay.
But yeah.
Nice joke, man.
Yeah.
Guys, I think we should try and vote these down. As you all know, I think it is Andrew, but you're all 3 people.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, we are at just over an hour. So
Gorgeous.
Look,
are we
guys,
ready?
it's
Statistically, it's
the process of elimination. I think it has to be Asher.
I made my mind up actually like literally maybe 10 seconds ago.
Oh,
So I'm ready.
Was it after the 2 plus 2 comment?
Yep.
are you gonna vote for this guy?
You're going to find out on the next episode of Cinemafia.
I really hope neither of you vote for me. I think it's.
That's
What
right,
have I done wrong
guys.
with my review? Oh my god. Anyway,
No.
Head to tinyurl.com
And remember to write- if you-
spoilers.com to get 100% off the spoilers.
What? 100% off the spoilers?
Yep, they'll be totally free if you head to that.
Oh, no, it's like
address.
100% off the spoilers. They're not even there.
remember
Just like,
to if you're
no
writing
spoilers.
my name, write other Asher, not just Asher.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
There's no pen in my head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah,
Okay.
I voted.
All right.
Well, okay. Are we ready?
Oh man, this is
Who wants to go first?
this
I'd
is
love to go
tough.
first.
This
Go.
is tough.
Andrew.
Yeah. Okay, that's not a surprise. I voted for Asher, and the Asher you know I mean.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
me.
I voted for Asher as well.
I have voted for other Asher.
Jesus Christ.
So that means there's majority for
Me.
You.
I've been.
No.
Oh, no!
It was me, bitches! Brah, brah.
Not only did he fucking ruin this whole thing by screwing us over, he didn't get any votes. He called us bitches.
Wow.
Damn.
Okay, what was your score?
What was it?
Come on.
Guys, this was the most amazing film ever. No, it was a 5 out of 10.
Shit.
God. So yeah.
Shit.
Really for me, as usual, the things I said I liked, I did like, but the characters honestly did annoy me. I enjoyed them for like the first 30 minutes we were with them. Like with you, I enjoyed seeing how he's all, innocent and happy and he's slowly becoming crazy. But they just stuck on that for way too long just because the film was so long. Like I can only see him taking these panty shots and being, I'm not really, into this stuff, but I love, sinning. I can only see that for so long before I get bored. And then it became even worse when he was just fawning after Yoko. And that lasted literally about 3 hours. He's just doing all these different, escapades to try and win her over. And I was honestly just getting bored. And it was the same I did mention this, but I didn't make it a big deal. It was the same with the father. Like, at the start, I can sympathize with him. So it's like, oh, he's innocent. He loses his wife, she dies. Then he finds this other woman. Maybe he's finally found love again, but then she takes him away from his religion. He's losing his faith, and she betrays him, and then he becomes abusive, and then like he's abusive to his son for ages. Then the woman comes back into his life, and he's willing to forgive her, and then he's going through the issues with her all over again. The same with Yoko, where she's evil, she's standoffish. Then she's in love with what's her name? Scorpion. She's in love with Scorpion.
Lady Scorpion or whatever.
In love with Scorpion for ages, and then she was in love / worshipping Keiko. I just thought the characters were like they just relied on their pure characteristics like way too much. It just really lost me, and really the length of the film. I was getting bored. Like literally, when I realized we're only halfway through, I was genuinely like, "Holy shit! I want to fall asleep."
Oh,
I
yeah?
was getting so
Well,
fucking bored.
you weren't the only one to do this, but you were the latest person. Her name is Koike, not Keiko.
Whatever.
You guys.
I think I've been saying Koike the most,
Yes,
even
yeah.
though I've sometimes lapsed.
I'll just look at any
yeah,
other...
I wasn't 100% sure it was you. I just felt like you were the
Nice
most
save.
likely.
No.
No,
Would you
no,
watch
no.
this film again?
Yes, yes, barely.
Really?
Yeah, a 5 out of 10 is something I would, but not for a long time. Like, as Asher was saying,
Maybe-
sometimes you need like these films. I do think there are a lot of themes there. It's just because I couldn't easily connect with them. I was like, you know what? If I can't easily pick out what you're trying to say, or some little aspect, then it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Maybe on like more viewings, I could get into this. But
That's really fair. Like, I feel like what I'm probably going to do before I watch this again, because I think I will,
give
is...
yourself a break, please. It's a long
Yeah,
ass
no,
film.
tonight I'm watching it, yeah. I'm
After
actually seeing
you've
Endgame
seen
tonight, which is another
Avengers
3 hours
Endgame.
of watching. But
God,
anyway.
goodness me.
Yeah, goodness me indeed. I think before I watch it the next time, which will probably be in a few years, just because I want a break, I will watch interviews with the director, Sion Sono, and just see what he was going for, and then I'll read other reviews. Because, again, this is such a polarizing film. Some people gave it, 1 out of 10. Some people gave it 10 out of 10. Again, lots of people that I personally know gave it 10 out of 10. So I have to ask them and see their reasoning for it. But I really did think that it was, I don't know, 5 out of 10 does seem a bit low, just given how ambitious it was. And also just...
That's the thing
just
with ambitious
fact that-
films. They overreach sometimes. That's just what I felt here.
Yeah, I know, but...
I think you're wrong. I think you're dumb and stupid.
Okay. Well,
I disagree with your score.
I'm
You're
closest,
stupid.
I guess I'm not technically the closest, but I'm relatively close to you. It's only a 1.5 difference from what you gave it.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. I'll also say the music. I said it was hypnotizing, but and I played that off as a good thing. I honestly found it really annoying. I did think that there was a good use of shots where it's like those sort of shaky cam close-ups, but the music just playing over and over and over and over. They played some more interesting songs, like sort of punky rock songs in the second, third, and fourth hours, but they just keep going back to this.
Second, third, and fourth hours.
But even
What a shame.
those songs they did overplay, and yeah, I also just felt like if there were a few more normal characters as opposed to, like you said, the
As
father.
opposed to Japanese characters?
No, it's not what I meant. When you said
not
like the
what
father, you were like, he's like the non-crazy one. I do genuinely think he was still, like all these characters were broken because we see him, his maybe makes more sense, maybe he's more sympathetic, but I still think he was broken. Like we see him, he goes mute for like a few weeks after after the woman leaves, and then he starts beating his son, and he's in like this awful like Stockholm syndrome with her where she clearly mistreats him, and she has like some weird attachment issue where she's keeping him around. She doesn't really love him. I guess it's implied they do sort of get together at the end. I thought he was just as broken, and having all these like massive personalities, all crazy, always butting heads, for me it was a bit over the top, and I guess it sort of broke my suspension of disbelief to actually get involved, like to get to care for any of the characters in depth. I guess I would have preferred if like maybe a few of the characters had these crazy characteristics that made them so insane and absurd. They had like a straight man to sort of compare and sort of keep things on track. Maybe I would have enjoyed that. I did think the comedy was good, but as I said, sorry, I keep cutting you off. I've got a lot to say. I did think the comedy was I did think the comedy was very good, but as I said, like seeing the montage of them taking those shots over and over, it got really boring after like a few minutes, because like even though they were like coming up with different ideas on how we're going to get these girls photos of their panties, it was like, okay, in principle it's the same thing over and over, and yeah, it just wore me down. This was a bit of a difficult film to sit through, but yeah, I probably would still watch it again because those few elements I did still enjoy.
Can I just jump on?
Please go
that
ahead.
actually gave. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Sorry, your time is up.
That gave me a thought actually when you were just talking about the father's
Whoa,
religion.
I hope it should
Don't
give you
waste it.
That was
Well,
that
no, actually,
noise.
another critique of the film that I just thought of was that actually near the end of it, we didn't actually see the two surviving main characters of Yoko and Yu, we didn't see their attachment or affiliation to any given religion. I would have actually quite liked it. Maybe this is the French existentialist in me, but I would have liked it if they forsaked religion and then went off and, existence precedes essence, and they went off and lived life and took freedom by the balls and just, or alternatively,
or snaps them off.
Yeah, no, but do you know what I mean? Like, religion just kind of disappeared near the end of it, and I feel like if there was like a decision regarding both of the characters' like religious orientations near the end, and them overcoming that as a part of their character arc, that would have actually strengthened the ending, just because it would have been, they finally realized their love for each other, and as a result of realizing that maybe their faith is misguided, or maybe the other way around, maybe their faith is completely they've gone back to the original Catholicism or something like that, but it just kind of dropped off, which is
Original Catholicism is orthodoxy anyway.
yeah.
I did actually think that the whole love angle at the end, I also thought that was a bit rushed, because it was like this entire film, even though Yoko has sort of been like, oh, maybe I'll treat you, better, you. At the end, she was like she was still rather disgusted by him, like almost choking him. And then it's like, oh, she moves to these other relatives, and her like cousin or something has like this one-off remark about a boy she's in love with, and then it's like, oh, a big dramatic zoom in on Yoko. She realized you cared for her all
those
along.
things that she's talking about why she is in love with this boy is the same things that she has experienced.
Because
she's
it's
like,
like,
actually, this is love.
I know, just that felt very rushed, because it was like, okay, we're in the third hour here. We've got 20
We're in
minutes.
the end game now, boys.
Yeah,
See,
exactly. For me, it was like, oh, that's a bit rushed. I understand, like, it's all absurd, but that still did irk me, where it's like, oh, finally at the end, she's in love with him.
See,
it was like a sort of contrived plot, happy ending. Although I did still like the visual of them, the police doors open, he's chased them down with all these people running after him, which is sort of relying on that sort of cultic, belief, all these people running after him as if it's like, an organization after him, and that one hand clasp between them as he's about to pull her out of the police car. I did like that ending visual.
See,
Go.
Nice. That was sick.
I was fuming.
Yeah, God.
No, I can totally understand that, but I guess it's just I really, really like it when directors try and kind of break out of the mold, or the cookie cutter. And this is I said this before, like, I enjoy Marvel films, but I wouldn't.
Are you
rate
calling
them...
me a normie?
No.
Why are you bringing up Marvel
no,
films?
it's just no. Okay. On the
I'll
last
admit
episode,
it, I wish this was Avengers Endgame, and I watched it 3 times.
Yes. On the last episode, I was comparing it to Marvel films, I think. And the thing about Marvel films is that I enjoy watching them, but just because they're so safe, that leads me to give them a less than 5 out of 10 usually. And I just, even if it doesn't necessarily come together, I really, a part of my rating scale is just how ambitious, or like, how much new is there, how much trying to do something different, because I feel like that is with cinema, with film, you can do so much that you can't do in literature, or through just even podcasting. Hey, in reference, guys.
What are you talking about? We can do anything here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, we need to wrap this up, boys. This has been going on
All right,
for too long.
guys.
All right.
That was fucking wild.
Yep.
I would just like to leave us with a little bit of criticism I've received over Facebook from our at this time our last released one, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. My dad's friend has commented 2 things. He said, "Yep, that one would have to be one of the best westerns of all time," and he replied to that comment saying, "Fuck you, Asher. It's an 8.5 minimum." I can't remember what I
He's
rated
on my
it.
side. Hell yeah.
8.5. That was a shit film.
I don't know what I rated it. Lower
You
than
gave it a 7.
8.5.
Yeah,
7.
7.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I've really fucked up here, boys.
Yeah. Would you actually, just quick aside, would you really compare this in quality equal to Love Exposure? Because you gave both of them 7 out of 10.
It's interesting because they're very different. One's
Yeah,
dated, one's oh, jeez. Honestly, I should probably buff up Butch Cassidy.
Yes,
the
you
Sundance
should.
Kid.
Left that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
look, everyone.
not necessarily.
No.
No.
This isn't a joke. I'm genuinely interrupting you. We're going to continue this conversation off air. It's time to wrap up, unless anyone has anything relevant and interesting to say.
That's
not
it
looking
from
at
me.
Asher. Okay, guys, that's
Well
it
done,
from me.
Lewis.
Thank you. Well done to me. Well done to you,
Hey.
Asher. Well done to me.
Thank
Goodbye.
you all for having me on this podcast.
It's okay. It's been an issue, but we've dealt with it. We've made it through.
It'll be over soon.
We'll see
so
you
good.
guys next time when we review
Chronicle.
Chronicle. Okay,
Chronicle.
nice. We'll see you guys then. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.